In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Crucifixion or Cruci-Fiction. Part 4. By Ahmed Deedat. Chapter 16. Simple calculations. Why Good Friday? In my country, we enjoy a 4-day holiday around Easter, beginning with what is called Good Friday. What makes Good Friday good? They say that because Christ died for their sins on that day. And in tune with that, every Christian country in the world, Britain, France, Germany, America, Lesotho, Swaziland, Zambia, Zimbabwe, they all commemorate Good Friday. I have already proved to you that Jesus could not have been on the cross for more than 3 hours, if at all. For all their rush and hurry, they could not bundle Jesus into the tomb before sunset of Friday. More than 1,001 sects and denominations of Christianity, bickering on every aspect of faith, are nevertheless almost all agreed that Jesus Christ was supposed to have been in the tomb on the night of Friday. He was still supposed to be in the tomb on the day of Saturday. And he was still supposed to be in the tomb on the night of Saturday. But on Sunday morning, the first day of the week, when Mary Magdalene visited the tomb, she found the tomb empty. You will note that I have repeated the word supposed, 3 times. Do you know why? Surely not to rhyme with the other three of the prophecy. The reason is that none of the 27 books of the New Testament record the time of his exit from the tomb. Not a single writer of these 27 tomes was an eyewitness to his alleged resurrection. The only ones who could have told us, authoritatively, a word or two on the subject have been utterly silenced. Unless another Arab lad makes a find like the Dead Sea Scrolls, but this time autographed by Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus themselves. These two would have told us candidly how they had taken their master soon after dark that very Friday evening to a more congenial place for rest and recuperation. Is it not amazing that the only genuine witnesses have been eternally silenced? Could it be that these two and the disciples at Jerusalem were preaching about another Jesus and another gospel? 2 Corinthians 11 verse 4. Easy additions. If it was the time factor that Jesus was trying to stress in the prophecy under discussion, let us see whether that was fulfilled according to the scriptures, as the Christians boast. The grand total amounts to no more than 1 day and 2 nights, and, juggle as you may, you will never get 3 days and 3 nights as Jesus had himself foretold, according to the scriptures. Even Einstein, the master mathematician, cannot help you for this. Can't you see the Christian is giving a double lie to Jesus from this one prophecy alone? Jesus said that he would be like Jonah. 1. The Christians allege that Jesus was unlike Jonah. Jonah was alive for 3 days and 3 nights, whereas Jesus was dead in the tomb. 2. Jesus said that he would be in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights, whereas the Christians say that he was in the tomb for only 1 day and 2 nights. Who is lying, Jesus or the Christians? Let them answer. Count backwards to solve dilemma. For all their learning, you have got them hooked. And they know it. We must not relent. The Christians are already inventing a way out of this dilemma. They have now invented the Good Wednesday theory. The Plain Truth, with its monthly free worldwide circulation of 6 million copies, is offering further free books on the subject of 3 days and 3 nights. There are other organizations in South Africa, like Bible Revelation, Johannesburg, who are also offering free books to prove that the Crucifixion took place on a Good Wednesday and not on a Good Friday. Mr. Robert Fahey from that great country, America, where almost all new cults originate, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Seventh-day Adventists, the Christian Scientists, the Mormons, you name them, and they have them representing that premier Christian magazine, named in the previous paragraph, lectured recently in the holiday in Durban. He startled his overwhelmingly Christian audiences with a lot of novel ideas. Among these newfangled doctrines was one about Good Wednesday. He agreed 100% with the present writer's conclusion that Good Friday was actually disproving Christ's claim to be the Messiah. To solve this problem, he suggested that we count backwards from the time he was discovered to be missing from the tomb, viz., on that Sunday morning, first day of the week, when Mary Magdalene went to anoint him. If we deduct 3 days and 3 nights from Sunday morning, we ought to get Wednesday as an answer. It is not difficult from here to get your 3 days and 3 nights to resolve the Christian dilemma. The audience, already pre-prepared with a flood of free magazines and literature, gave Mr. Fahy a resounding applause. God or the devil? After the meeting, during a personal discussion, I congratulated Mr. Fahy for his ingenuity. How was it possible for the past 2,000 years that the Christian world had not known their religious arithmetic to get their sums right? Even to this day, the bulk of Christendom commemorate a Good Friday instead of a Good Wednesday. Who has deceived the 1,200,000,000 Christians of the world, including the Roman Catholics who claim an unbroken chain of popes from the first Pope, Peter, to the present Pope, into falsely celebrating Good Friday? I asked Mr. Fahy. Mr. Fahy unashamedly answered, "The devil." I said, "If the devil can succeed in confusing the Christians, and keep them confused for 2,000 years in the most simple aspect of faith, how much easier it would be for the devil to mislead them in things concerning God?" Mr. Fahy blushed and walked away. If this is the belief of the trendsetters of Christianity, we may well ask, is this crucifixion not the mightiest hoax in history? Should we not, now, more appropriately call it crucifixion? Crystal clear evidence. I have given you a list on page 50 showing overwhelming proof from the Christian scriptures where it was being said again and again that Jesus was alive. Yet the disciples did not believe. Will the modern-day disciples believe now? Are they prepared to believe their own master who had said, as Jonah was, "So shall the Son of Man be"? Not likely. Remember Thomas? Another one of the elected ones of Jesus, dubbed by the Christians as Doubting Thomas. He was not with them, the disciples, when Jesus came, John 20 verse 24, the first time in the upper room. Subsequently, when these very disciples who had felt and touched and eaten with Jesus testified that they had seen the Lord, not God, not the ghost of Jesus, but he himself flesh and blood alive, Thomas said unto them, "Except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe." John 20 verse 25. In an article covering 4 full pages on the subject, Does the Bible Promise an Earthly Paradise?, where picture appears, there is not one word about this stocky fiction. The fastest growing Christian cult, the Jehovah's Witnesses, excepting the born-agains, have innovated a novel concept of the fructification. They choke on the word cross, cruci, which they claim is the symbol of phallic worship. On page 110 of their book, What Has Religion Done for Mankind?, they say about the cross, crux ansata. This looked like the letter T with an oval handle on top. Actually, this represented the male and female organs of reproduction combined. And so was the sign of life. Hence, they will never countenance their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ being associated in any way with a cross, a pagan totem. Therefore, they claim that Jesus was instead killed on a stake, a pole, and not on a cruci, a cross. If we accept their hypothesis, then Jesus would have been stackified instead of crucified. Hence, it would be stackifiction instead of crucifixion. Watch how their cleverness shunts them from the frying pan into the fire. The stake is the symbol of the totem pole, another form of the phallus of the phallic worshipping cults. I wonder how long they will hold on to this. Chapter 17. Fabricated Scripture. New name, old game. A born-again had been boasting how he used to pinch 10 cents from the church collection plate for a milkshake, and how he used to tie his drunken father in the barn. The same barn where he used to see his mother lying in the gutter in the manure, the bathroom of the cows beaten so badly by my father. Now he does another confidence trick upon his readers. He quotes the above verse, John 20 verse 25, from his American Bible without giving the reference. And after the words, "I will not believe," he begins a new paragraph with the words, "At this point, Jesus said to Thomas," quoting again from the Bible without giving the reference. St. John gives a lie to this cultist by saying, "And after 8 days, again his disciples were inside, and Thomas with them. Then came Jesus." John 20 verse 26. Artful lies. Another of these cultists, claiming to be a lawyer by profession, supports his reborn brother from America with yet another lie. He says on page 120 of The Islam Debate that Deedat has recently made a big issue of the stone which sealed the tomb by publishing a booklet entitled Who Moved the Stone? In it, he suggests that the stone was moved by two disciples of Jesus who were Pharisees, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, page 10. But in his booklet, Was Christ Crucified? Suggests it was a superwoman, page 25, implying that it was Mary Magdalene. Emphasis are mine. How can a born-again Christian and an attorney at law lie? To ensnare his victim, he even quotes the page number, 25. The book has been out of print for very long. Even if you had a copy, you were not likely to check it up. The cultist sounds so cocksure, but the gospel truth is that my actual words are. She was pleasantly surprised on her arrival to find the stone already rolled away. Where is the suggestion that it was Mary Magdalene? Where do I imply that it was Mary Magdalene? But for these sick people, whether American or South African, every trick in the bag is permissible to clinch a convert for Christ. I throw in the towel. I am not prepared to give battle to every false charge, and I want you to do the same. You simply deliver your message the best way you can, and leave the rest to God. A fabrication. Biblical scholars are coming to a conclusion that the Doubting Thomas episode is of the same variety as that of the woman caught in the act. John 8 verses 1 to 11, i.e. it is a fabrication. But as the Orthodox will not allow this interpolation, John 8 verses 1 to 11, to be expunged from their versions of the Bible, he exhibits a similar stubbornness in dealing with the verses about putting fingers into the print of the nails, John 20 verse 25. For the present we will deal with them for what they are worth. The Romans had no special reasons for being vindictive towards Jesus as compared to his two crossmates. Why make fish of one his crossmates, and flesh of the other Jesus? I.e. to have the two tied with leather thongs to the crossbar and to have Jesus nailed. Not at this point, as the cultist alleges, but 8 days later, Jesus walks once more into the upper room, and he finds Thomas there this time. And according to John, he commanded Thomas to reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. John 20 verse 27. Thomas realizes the heel he has been. He had signally rejected every proof that Jesus was alive. Every other disciple, beside Judas Iscariot the traitor, had testified that they had seen Jesus and felt him and eaten food with him, but Thomas would not believe. What would he not believe? That the living, pulsating Jesus was making his rounds, not a ghost of Jesus. Now, being confronted with the physical reality of his presence, demonstrating his physical, material body, he was forced to exclaim, "My Lord and my God." John 20 verse 28. What did Thomas realize? Did Thomas realize at that juncture that Jesus Christ was his Jehovah? Did he and the other disciples fall down in prostration before him? Never. His words were the words of self-reproach. We utter them daily. My God, what a fool I have been. Are you addressing your listener as your God? Chapter 18. None so blind. Take stock. The truth shines through. Let me give you a quick summary of the points we have discussed so far, concluding that Jesus Christ was neither killed nor was he crucified, as alleged by the Christians and the Jews, but that he was alive. 1. Jesus was reluctant to die. He had worked out a strategy of defense to repel the Jews, because he wanted to remain alive. 2. He beseeched God for help, with strong crying and tears for God Almighty to keep him alive. 3. God heard his prayers, which means that God accepted his prayers to keep him alive. 4. An angel of God came to strengthen him, in the hope and belief that God will save him alive. 5. Pilate finds Jesus not guilty. Good reason to keep Jesus alive. 6. Pilate's wife shown a dream in which she was told that no harm should come to this just man. In other words, that he should be saved alive. 7. Supposed to be on the cross for only 3 hours. According to the system in vogue, no man could die by crucifixion in so short a time, which means that even if he was fastened to the cross, he was alive. 8. The other two, his crossmates, on their respective crosses were alive. So Jesus too, for the same period of time, must be alive. 9. Encyclopedia Biblica under article Cross, column 960, says that when the spear was thrust, Jesus was alive. 10. Forthwith came there out blood and water. Forthwith means straightaway, immediately, which was a sure sign that Jesus was alive. 11. Legs not broken, as a fulfillment of prophecy. Legs can be of any use only if Jesus was alive. 12. Thunderstorm, earthquake, and darkening of the sun all within 3 hours, to disperse the sadistic mob to enable his secret disciples to help keep him alive. 13. Jews doubted his death. They suspected that he had escaped death on the cross, that he was alive. 14. Pilate marvels to hear that Jesus was dead. He knew from experience that no man can die so soon by crucifixion. He suspected that Jesus was alive. 15. Big roomy chamber, close at hand, and big and airy for willing hands to come to the rescue. Providence was out to keep Jesus alive. 16. Stone and winding sheets had to be removed, only necessary if Jesus was alive. 17. Report on winding sheets. German scientists who carried out experiments on the Shroud of Turin said that the heart of Jesus had not stopped functioning, that he was alive. 18. Ever in disguise. Disguise not necessary if Jesus was resurrected, only necessary if he was alive. 19. Forbade Mary Magdalene to touch him. Touch me not, for this reason that it would hurt, because he was alive. 20. Not yet ascended unto my Father, in the language of the Jews, in the idiom of the Jews, he was saying, I am not dead yet. In other words, I am alive. 21. Mary Magdalene not afraid on recognizing Jesus, because she had seen signs of life before. She was looking for a Jesus who was alive. 22. Disciples petrified on seeing Jesus in the upper room. All their knowledge about the crucifixion was from hearsay. Therefore, they could not believe that Jesus was alive. 23. Ate food again and again in his post-crucifixion appearances. Food only necessary if he was alive. 24. Never showed himself to his enemies, because he had escaped death by the skin of his teeth. He was alive. 25. Took only short trips, because he was not resurrected, not spiritualized, but alive. 26. Testimony of men around the tomb. Why seek ye the living among the dead? Luke 24 verses 4-5, that he is not dead, but alive. 27. Testimony of angels. Angels who had said that he was alive. Luke 24 verse 23. Did not say, resurrected, but the actual word uttered by the angels was, alive. 28. Mary Magdalene testifies, they heard that he was alive, and had been seen by her, they believed not. Mark 16 verse 11, Mary did not vouch for a spook, or ghost or spirit of Jesus, but a live Jesus. What they could not believe was that the Master was alive. 29. Dr. Primrose testifies that the water and the blood, when Jesus was lanced on the side, was on account of an upset in the nervous vessels because of the scourging by staves, which was a sure sign that Jesus was alive. 30. Jesus had himself foretold that his miracle will be the miracle of Jonah. According to the book of Jonah, Jonah was alive when we expected him to be dead. Similarly, when we expect Jesus to be dead, he should be alive. These 30 points and many more arguments are fully expounded in the preceding pages of this parts. Please watch and re-watch the arguments and practice them on your friends. The pleasure is yours. I pray for your success. Chapter 19. Crucified or crucified. Language deficiency. Every word is a frozen picture of what it represents. If we take a word and cogitate on it, we will be able to see or visualize it in our minds. Try ship. You will see a ship in your mind. Handbag. You will see a handbag in your mind. Cigarette. You will see a cigarette in your mind. But we speak at such a rapid rate that we apprehend words as ideas, thoughts, and concepts. Words are the tools wherewith we convey our messages. The greater the vocabulary, the clearer and easier the communication. But wrong words can mar the ideas. The language cul-de-sac, the Arabic language, is very rich in conveying spiritual thoughts and concepts, but English is richer in the field of science and technology. Yet this latter language is letting me down. It seems to have no verbs for incomplete or attempted actions. For example, crucifixion or crucifixion. 1. A man is taken to the gallows, the noose is put around his neck. He kicks the bucket, meaning the rope is pulled for him to die, but fate intervenes and he is reprieved before he expires. 20 years later, the same man dies by drowning. We want one verb to explain to us what happened. Was the man hanged or what happened? Not unhanged. We want just one verb. 2. Another person is taken to the electric chair for electrocution. He is strapped to the chair, and the switch is put on. A bolt of electricity goes through the man, but the power fails. The man revives, and before another bolt of electricity is shot through him, he is reprieved. A few days later, the man dies in a motorcar accident. What was his end? What happened to him on the chair? Was he electrocuted or not? One verb. 3. Josephus, a Jewish historian, records in his book of Antiquities about crucifixions in which he intervened, and as a result the crucified men were lowered from their crosses. One survived. What had happened to him on the cross? Was he crucified? The one who did not die by crucifixion, but an attempt was made to crucify him. Was he crucified? One verb. Crucifixions galore. The above are hypothetical cases, one might say, but we are with history in the making. A reproduction from the Weekend World, dated August 3, 1969. Mr. Peter van der Berg, a barman by occupation, was crucified 4 kicks, just for the thrill of it. In his own words, he simply wanted to prove that man is master over his body. He was on the cross. He went through the whole process of the crucifixion. To outdo the 3 of Golgotha, he had an 18-inch spike piercing his thigh. This barman is still alive and kicking. Was he crucified? One verb. There is no such verb in English. When the Jews cried repeatedly to Pilate, "Crucify him, crucify him," Luke 23 verse 21, John 19 verse 6, they meant kill him on the cross by crucifixion. Kill him, not just taking him for a ride on the cross. And if after all the due ceremony, like that of Mr. van der Berg, the man did not die by crucifixion, what would you say happened? What verb are you going to use when you haven't got it in your language? Multiple deficiency? A South African Englishman and his American counterpart jointly confess. If the word crucify only means to kill on a cross, we are at a loss to find an alternative verb to describe the mere act of impaling on a cross. Their own emphasis. Shame on them. They make a mockery of me, whilst the deficiency lies in their own language and in their own inability to coin an appropriate word. With all their indwelling of the Holy Ghost, the Christian world has failed to coin an appropriate verb to describe the mere act of being fastened to the cross. Presently, I will get them out of their misery, inshallah, before the chapter is finished. But why the rhetoric when they still say, if the word crucify only means to kill? Will Christendom tell us what else crucify means? The world-renowned Oxford Dictionary simply defines crucify as put to death by fastening to a cross. The born-again authors of the Islam debate cannot solve the problem, so I will solve it for them. Crucifixions. Now for kicks, there is always something new coming out of the East. Now in the Far East, the Filipinos have developed a new craze of getting crucified. They want to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. A reproduction from the Sunday News of Dar es Salaam, dated May 3, 1981, reports of multiple crucifixions in the Philippines. At least 7 cases of crucifixions were reported in the local press. There could have been many more crucifixions in the hinterland, which the newspapers failed to report. Among those crucified was one Luciana Reyes, described as the first woman known to have performed the ritual of crucifixion. A new addition to the fanatical elements of the crucifixions is that the penitent's hands are nailed to a wooden cross. Crucified or cruciplayed, not a single person died by crucifixion. i.e. was crucified. One of the crucified men fainted. Another crucified man was up and smoking a cigarette as soon as his hands were bandaged. A vendor had gone through the ritual of crucifixion for the 5th time. This man has vowed to perform the crucifixion 10 times. It all sounds like a fairy tale, but there were 25,000 witnesses to 4 crucifixions in one town alone. Some of these crucifixions are shown live on television. The Christian world has been notorious in exploiting Jesus to make money. The films on the life of Jesus, every one of them, was a box office record smasher. They have their nativity play. They have their Pass-Ison play. Why not a cruciplay? Reg Grattan, the correspondent for the Sunday News, has solved the problem of the crucifixions by having the words in inverted commas. He has used the words crucifixion and crucifixions 5 times in his article, and every time when these words appear he has them enclosed in inverted commas. Please check it up. In other words, he is saying that it is the so-called crucifixion or the so-called crucifixions. The inverted commas are more subtle than the words so-called. I did not catch the joke on my first few readings of the article. Would you have? You will note that other alert journalists have taken the precautions of putting words like dead, died, and corpse in inverted commas on pages 37 and 38. Now Reg does the same about the crucifixions. Since the word crucify is getting stuck in the missionaries' throats, should we not use crucifixion instead? Crucifixion or crucifixion? We can now say without any mental reservation that Peter van der Berg, page 36, went through the process of the crucifixion with all severity and seriousness, but he was not crucified, verb of crucifixion, as the newspaper proclaimed, but that he had been crucifixed, verb of crucifixion. Further, we can say that the Christians in the Philippines are not undergoing crucifixions, but that they are undergoing crucifixions in all sincerity. No passion plays or play acting with them as they do in films. It is the real thing, being only short of death. Hence, any performance with the cross, where the victim tries to emulate the alleged experience of Jesus, but does not actually die the accursed death on the cross. We will rightly call it by its appropriate terms, crucifict instead of crucify, verb, crucifixed instead of crucified, verb, crucifixion instead of crucifixion, noun. This simple and natural use of the right words will break the cross of Christianity, which finds itself at the crossroads, not knowing which way to turn. And if we use the words frequently enough, we will soon find them in the English dictionaries of the world. To this end, we have published 100,000 copies of this publication for free distribution as a first print. Read it, study it, and share it with friends and foes alike for the glory of truth. Amen. Afterward, the crucifixion of Christ had been pushed down my throat to be the only redeeming factor for mankind since my early encounter with students and priests of Adam's mission when I was in my teens. Being a rather impressionable youth, I was amazed at the manner in which scores of young, articulate men believed in the crucifixion as their only factor of salvation and seemed to be concerned about my being condemned to hell for not believing in it. This subject of the crucifixion of Christ, on which all Christianity is staked, became a serious subject of my studies. I really wanted to know what it was all about and began to study their authority, the New Testament, on the subject. Honestly, I do not expect anyone to ask me about my belief as a Muslim concerning the crucifixion. My belief is the Quranic belief as categorically stated in chapter 4, verse 157. I repeat emphatically that the study of the crucifixion was thrust upon me by those of the Christian faith who claimed to be my benefactors and well-wishers. I seriously took their concern for me to heart and studied and researched objectively, using their own sources. The results, you will agree, are astounding. I would like to thank the hundreds of Christians who came knocking at my door and for initiating me into this subject. The foregoing is the result of my years and years of study and research. By Sheikh Ahmed Deedat, may Allah accept this wonderful masterpiece and